welcome to Two Guys Talking AI. My name is Kevin Jaskaliak, CMO of Unisense, and I'm joined by my good friend and CEO of Unisense, Bharat Vijay. Today, we are going to continue our kind of international journey to discuss the impact of AI. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to look into the wine industry and soil science. How are you doing today, Bharat?
Doing great, Kevin, and really exciting to to have today's conversation.
Well, perfect, and so am I. So today we have a special guest. I'm going to give a little background on him, then I'm going to pass it over to him. But I'm really excited to have Randal Tomich here as our special guest for Two Guys Talking AI podcast. Randal is located in Australia. However, he is currently out in a field in the beautiful city of Bakersfield, California. A little background on Randal, and then I'm going to pass it over to him. He's a third-generation winemaker, which is near and dear to my heart. And then on top of it, he's an expert in soil science, which is huge. And both areas, we have been seeing a huge impact of AI. More so, Randal spent the last 20 years inventing, creating kind of the best way to get the best out of soil. A lot of people believe that the wine industry is about making wine, but it actually starts from the soil up. And that's one of the big things that I think why I'm so excited about Randal being here, because, we can talk about how to put juice in a bottle, but that juice doesn't get to the bottle until we optimize how it gets out of the soil. So welcome, Randal, and thank you so much for joining Two Guys Talking AI.
Hey guys, great to be involved, and thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Randal, I hate doing this, but just give us that 30-second background on you, because I was going to put all the things that you've invented and the wines that you've cultivated, the wines you put in bottles, but why don't you give us like a 30-second kind of discussion on what who you are and what you're doing.
Thanks very much. Well, I'm from a winemaking family, third generation, and we have beautiful vineyards over in Australia, and I've made wine in California and Paso Robles before as well. My passion project is a company called Ag Soil Works, and what we do is we translate soil science to the ground. So way back in my youth when I was a young man, I used to do a lot of forestry work, and that turned into vineyard construction, and I could just see there was a better way to do this. So I collaborated with the University of Adelaide, which is one of the great viticulture universities of the world, and we developed a series of subsoiler tools so that we could collect a soil database, and using the soil database and GPS technology, we were one of the first early adopters. We can cultivate each soil type to its own merits to produce the most homogeneous soil type for growing viticulture, vines, trees, and even grain crops like barley. So fast forward 20 years or so, we have a company which operates across 3 continents, and we specialize in developing irrigated crops, vineyards and orchards. We have 4 patents and licensed manufacturers which build our small tools and make them available in the marketplace. So we're changing soil science and building more water sustainable developments, one vineyard at a time. And since we've been over here, we've developed over 100,000 acres of irrigated crops.
That's incredible. No, I read a little bit of the background, and I definitely wanted you to give us the kind of the summary. So Randal, I'm going to start with you, and it's kind of my opening question I always do on every podcast, and it's kind of just to kick off the discussion. But starting at that 100,000 foot question, being a leader, a driver in soil science, and being a third generation winemaker, how do you see, or what have you seen the impact of AI in the overall wine industry today and the soil science space? And I know there's 2 different things, but I thought I'd lump them together, and and again, we'll get a little more detail, but where have you seen that AI impact?
Well, the whole ag tech thing's not very old, really. It's only about 20 years old. I've employed a lot of ag tech in our operation, and with remote sensors and things like that. but beyond remote sensors, it hasn't really gone a lot further. Or like in the winery, having sensing of the ferment or the temperature of the tanks or things like that. I think the big space for AI is really in machine control. You know, and I think it's starting to happen in the mining industry now. You know, of course, driving a tractor, it might seem simple, but it's a skilled position, and you know, it takes time to know, yeah, what do I do if that branch falls over or things like that. And yeah, a lot of the problems with these early robotic tractors, which they're bringing out, are that they have an obstacle and the machine stops, and someone has to go out there and fix them. So I can see a big application coming in machine control, and just automating more things on the farm.
So, Barat, I'm going to skip your question because I want to follow up on that. So, you know, one of the things, Randal, that I've been hearing about is this thing called precision agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where AI has become a pivotal tool in that area. Can you explain exactly what precision agriculture is and how you see the integration of AI technology such as drones, IoT device, et cetera, kind of impact in that area?
It's a great question. We offer a drone service, and we are enrolled to a Swiss company, which is an AI mapping company. And it's quite incredible that they can use AI and they overlay, I think, 5 years of satellite imagery to give us a composite map. And it works really well and it's seamless. So precision agriculture is actually identifying each of the individual soil types, having them mapped out in the soil database so that you can treat each of those soil types as management zones and change your management for each soil type or crop. So you can really, really fine tune down on say the top of the hills a little bit shallow, and I've got some rocky ground up there. How do I farm that best, and what crop will give me my best return? How should it be cultivated? Doesn't need more fertilizer. It might need 100 pounds. And then you've got the spot down the bottom where you have deeper soils that's going to be more suited to different deeper rooted crops and stuff like that. But being able to really hone down, and I think using the current AI service, what it does is that it takes days and days out of the job, to be honest. We still ground truth everything we do, because at the moment the satellite doesn't know what soil type that is, but it can certainly identify that there's different growth parameters or something's happening there that's different, and we take that data now and we go and hone in and ground truth it. Whereas before we'd be doing, say, one soil pit every acre in a high-end development, or every 4 acres in an orchard, and that'd take a long time to get across 1,000 acres. Now we can get it done in a couple of days.
So not only the yield, it has to be saving a ton of money as well.
Well, you save water, you know, everything, you know, just science has moved significantly, you know, in the ag soil space and nutrient space. And there's still a lot of farmers who farm the old way. You know, I do it like that. Well, when you ask the question, why do you do that? They say, I don't know. That's what Dad did.
Well, the classic statement of "we've always done it that way" is something that's never going to go away. So, you know, Barat, let me follow up with you. You know, Randal talked about hydration, water. You know, one area where I know you're passionate about is climate and weather analytics and being a weather analyst. You know, where do you see AI impacting the kind of the soil science, wine industry? Again, I'm going to butcher this up, but bringing the idea of climate and weather analysis and how it impacts, bringing AI into the climate space and how it impacts the wine industry.
Actually, Kevin, I have to confess, I know very little about the agriculture space, and I was also very, very curious. I wanted to find out from Randal. I read about something he's created called the Vibro Soiler, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about that when he has a chance. But I think the climate side of AI has been around for a while, and while I think weather itself, the weather algorithms are notoriously unpredictable at times. So I was also curious how Randall kind of deals with that, because the weather may predict a day in advance reasonably well, but the accuracy will kind of keep dropping a week in advance, and few months in advance. So I was pretty curious about how do they use that, and but definitely the kind of image processing that has been done for climate and weather analysis. For example, enhanced weather prediction models have been there for a while. They take satellite images, radar data, atmospheric data to predict weather conditions. That's been there for a while. They also do something like climate pattern analysis, where they look at kind of long-term climate patterns, and then they try to model stuff like a El Nino or monsoons or polar vortex behaviors. That's also been around for a while, which can, I think, help the farmer. And the third thing is sort of extreme event prediction, like tornadoes and hurricanes and floods. They're slowly getting better and better at that. But I think that's but I still feel it's early days. There's things like, say, solar power. Like, a lot of farms are adding solar power, and but even if there's a cloud that shows up, it affects the solar output significantly. So we're not quite there as yet in terms of accuracy. So I was curious, from Randall, is it good enough? Is it helping? Are they able to actually use it?
Um, we use like online weather maps like very, very regularly, and we're often plagued by climatic conditions like frosts and things like that. And knowing the frost well ahead, you can prepare the vines for it and have your irrigation water up. But the difficult thing with viticulture and most all farming, and the higher you go up the food chain, the more complex it gets. Viticulture is pretty complex farming, and on top of that's probably blueberry growing and then vegetable growing in terms of complexity. But our issue is, if someone could help us with those 2 weeks of flowering and 2 weeks when the crop's flowering, or the fruit setting, that's the most important weather pattern. We just need clean, dry weather, and it's only like 10 days a year, and that 10 days sets up the whole season. So that's where I see a big application of AI.
Interesting. Randall, how do you see the use of AI and I guess forecasting and again, you could tell I know enough to sound dangerous in the wine space, but the idea of, pruning, harvesting,
Yep.
because go ahead. I'm sorry.
I look forward to the day when we can have a automated hand harvester. I know that they're actually working on that, and they're using AI for crop prediction now. There's been a number of trials done down in South Australia with the government research, and they have a buggy they drive up and down and collect the data to try and predict yields, which is great, because working out your yields, like, it sounds easy, but it is really, really difficult, and it's a nightmare. So I think there's a lot of application there, and I know that they're using AI and trialing apple picking with a robot automated picker. So as that moves through, those more technical jobs, which traditionally you'd need a physical person operating it, there's huge scope.
So, Brad, you talked about what was the tool that Randall developed?
Vibro Soiler. Did I say it right?
You did the Vibro Soiler. So in my passion to search for a better way of doing it in subsoilers, where we did a study tour to Europe back in the early 2000s, and we couldn't quite find the exact tool that we're after. So we developed a tool with the university and mechanical engineers, and we developed a parabolic wing subsoiler. We've got different models. So basically, we go out into your field and we use our drone with the AI enhancement. We identify 3 or 4 soil types. We then go and dig some soil pits and examine your soil. And the biggest issue with most all soils, and the biggest issue with feeding the world throughout the whole continent, or throughout the whole of the world, is that soils are layered. Because they're layered down over millennia, you have different layers of soil. And what happens in the majority of cases is that the roots and water and water storage go down and hit the first layer of soil, which is usually somewhere around 6 to 12 inches. A lot of people call it the plough pan. It can be created physically, but a lot of compaction issues and pans are there naturally. So all these layers in most soils stop water from infiltrating, stop you from storing more water in your soil profile, and for roots getting deeper. So we then go out and identify at what level those layers are in the soil throughout your whole field. Then we've developed a vibrosoiler tool, one suited to each different soil type and to each different depth. And we can go from about 15 inches in a, which is what we'd use in a grain farming, right to 6 feet, which is what we use in orchards and stuff for big trees. So we'll tailor it. So our parabolic curved ripper, which is generally around 4 feet deep, comes down. It has a very soft angle on it, so we don't create any compaction in the soil. And then we have a large wing keel behind it. So similar to the sort of keel you'd see on a big ocean-going racing yacht, with all the right angles, and it's about 3 feet wide. So as we move through the soil, this large wing lifts up and down once a second. And what it does is that it tremendously blends the soil in this vertical tillage. And that allows extra rooting and deeper soil profiles. And it's not uncommon for users of our system to have up to 30, 40, 50% improvement in yields.
Unbelievable.
So
that's pretty amazing.
I've been pioneering soil science here and banging the door. I was very fortunate to have a very good partner in America, a gentleman by the name of John Crossland, who's a vineyard industry legend. And he knew a few guys, so we got it. So we managed to get it out there. In the last year, one of our crowning glories, we did the new development at Opus One, which is a big deal, and the ranch opposite Rob Mondavi, the Tokalon Ranch, which is known as the best land in the whole of America. 500-acre ranch owned by BV, the likes of the Walt Disney family, and Rob Mondavi. Of the 500 acres, we've developed about 280 now. So, wow. So great testament to the system. But I've been banging on about precision agriculture for 20 years now, 25 years, and finally, the younger generation of farmers are coming, and people are starting to get it. It's only been in the last 3 to 5 years where people have started to get it. Apart from that, I couldn't convince, prior to 5 or 7 years ago, I couldn't convince anyone to spend money on a soil science. So they buy a piece of land for $2 or $3 million, say for 100 acres. They spend another $2 million developing it, and I can't get 10 grand to do a soil survey. So we've gone from that to now every single job has a soil survey.
You think it's because the AI is causing that the train's just passing them by and they're seeing they're losing revenue, or is it just an eye opener that with AI on every newscast discussion, it's kind of opening their eye and realizing that science is required and a more technologically kind of vision of their soil is needed?
I think you're right, because there's so many companies which now offer the services in terms of satellite imagery and composite imagery with AI, and I think we're seeing the new generation of farmers come through as well. So the younger guys who kind of get it, and especially in tough times, people look for new tech. So our typical consumer for our business is the early adopter. So we kind of moved from the early adopter into mainstream, and we kind of sit in between there. So my vision is to make the vibrosoiler replace the Cat D11 slip plow in California.
Randal, I was curious about one thing. So once the sort of the precision viticulture is done, then there's a whole fermentation process. is AI playing a role there, like, sugar content, temperature, acidity, those kind of things as you ferment the wine, or is it still human touch?
It's pretty much all human touch, and that's the difficult thing about it when they've tried to bring in, machine standards. You can open and close any valves with a solenoid, so you can reasonably control what happens, turn a pump off and on or anything like that. But there's so much of a feel in it, and it sounds funny, and it takes like years to kind of appreciate it. And when the grapes are really good and it's grown beautifully and it's not stressed and it's a good season, the wine makes itself. And you could just leave it in the vat and do nothing, and it'd be decent wine. But it's in those more marginal years, which is the majority of the time, where you have to draw on so much other knowledge and learning. So I think there's a big space there for it, and automation being part of it.
And that's incredible. And then how do you go from there to kind of actually the quality of the wine itself? Like, when do you know that the wine's going to be good? And can the machine play a role there?
Definitely, it's going to be good in the vineyard. So before you pick it, it's going to be good, and it's going to be good through the ferment. If the ferment runs through, sometimes it just rolls through. So there are some key indicators there.
So, Brad, I want to ask a question, and I'm kind of shifting gears because, I definitely am excited about Randal being online here. But we've talked about the soil. Well, we're actually seeing it in use here, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's Bob. Saw the tool on the back with the wings on it.
So that's the device.
For everybody listening to the podcast, we're taking a look at a giant bulldozer or a tractor with a device on the back there. So,
yeah. So this is all our proprietary stuff here, and the movement of the tool on the wing here, which is linked to the ground speed radar, to the GPS. So one day AI will replace the dude in the seat, which I look forward to. So then we leave it ready to plant.
There you go.
Yeah, in action, live as
in action. I love it. Hey, Brad, let me ask you a question. And Randal, I'm going to want your feedback on this. So we've talked about the soil, we've talked about the plants, we've talked about the harvest, we've talked about the creation of the wine. Now the wine's in the bottle. Brad, where do you see AI affecting the commerce side of this? How people are selecting wine, and how to enhance wine manufacturers and wine distributors in the selling process.
Yeah, I think multiple ways, Kevin. There's always a supply chain where it can play a role in terms of where the geographically where the preferences are. AI can play a role there, but our interest has also been in the product discovery side. So when somebody's looking at a selection of wines to buy online, for example, and if you have more than 100 of them, then it's going to take too long to swipe through. So you can actually make it an interactive experience, because each wine has kind of the richness of taste, the fruitiness of taste. It's got so many different dimensions to it that as the consumers looking through the wines, you can interactively ask them to remember a few and show the ones that are more interesting. So I see it very much like similar to buying high-end fashion apparel, because this is so close to your taste. And if you see things that you like, and you're able to find more interesting ones, the whole discovery experience, the online experience, can be made much more interesting. And that's where we've spent a lot of our time with Unisense.
That's really interesting. I mean, the idea that, think of a theme-driven product discovery in the wine space. So right now, there's a wedding, and so we assume we want bubbly, we want a champagne or a sparkling wine and something rosé. But what about if it is a sporting event or a business meeting? To be able to filter wine selection in the shopping process based on that, I think it's huge. And Randall, I'm sure you get a lot of this. I get enormous amounts of calls from friends that are not familiar with wine, and they're at a business dinner, and they say, "What do you think I should order?" And that always opens up that loaded question, because the first response is, "What's your budget?" Because a Screaming Eagle is always a great bottle to put on the table, but I don't know how many people are going to write that kind of check. So where do you see AI affecting the wine sales side? Not the juice, but you're actually, because you also own a vineyard, which is amazing, in a wine line.
So I think it's going to have even bigger effect, and I think it's going to have a profound effect. It's every winemaker's dream to have a direct-to-consumer business, like have everyone on a wine club, effectively, and that's not easy to do. So in our own business, wine club would be maybe only 1 or 2% like of the overall production. So I think AI is going to totally revolutionize the direct-to-consumer business. It's going to be able to dial in on everyone's individual needs. How did little Johnny go at the football and all this sort of thing, and really going to provide that bespoke service. I think it's really going to be like totally game changing in the whole industry. We already use it when we're writing back label copy, and when we're writing Facebook posts. So amazing.
So that's for people who don't know, that the back copy label writing, you used to have an attorney be involved and copywriters. I think now with the use of AI, you're able to take AI and help it write descriptions, disclaimers, the whole thing. So it's pretty amazing. It's amazing how the cost, efficiency, and also the time to market has shortened dramatically. So that's huge.
Yeah.
So again,
and general marketing, it's just going to totally be a game changer. No longer will we have the marketing consultants out there. They'll have to deliver a whole lot more now that AI's around.
So Randall, one of the things that I've been actually received a lot of comments on, I do every time, is I always claim this is not a marketing platform, but I really appreciate you being here. Can you give us a little description on your brand and where it's distributed, and what is kind of the flagship wine, and what would you recommend?
For sure. So I've had many love affairs in my life. It started off with Riesling when I was a young man. I moved up to the Clare Valley, a Riesling area. From there, I went to Cabernet. I started farming in the cool Cabernet areas, and from there to Chardonnay, and now Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir is my passion. Sooner or later, all wine drinkers end up at Pinot or Grenache, and for me, this took about 15 or 20 years. So I make a range of different Pinot Noirs. I have a collection which we call the Devil Made Pinot, and we have terroir, single vineyard site, single clone selections, and we showcase all the different terroirs of Pinot. So a few years back, we unfortunately were caught up in the bushfires and lost much of our vineyard back in 2020, and it's a fantastic season for us this year. All of the new vineyards with the terroirs of Pinot are coming on stream, and we have a spot which is cool climate, and because of the topography, I think we're pretty well protected from climate change, which is terrific. So our specialty is Pinot Noir, our Hilltop Pinot, and our Icon I777 Pinot, and you'll find them at all good retailers near you.
Oh, great. So it is distributed in the United States?
Yeah, we have some good distribution down in Texas, and bits and pieces in California.
Outstanding. So I guess my final question is, what's symbolic of the bee on the label?
So our wine label has a gold bee in a T, And it's actually the story of two families. My mother's family were market gardeners and kept bees, and Dad's family were vineyard guys.
There you
So
go.
the story of two families coming together.
Outstanding.
So no, lovely heritage. And my son, who's 26, has now joined the business. And gentlemen, I can tell you there is no greater joy than to work with your son every day.
Oh, outstanding. Well, you know what? I want to thank you, Randal, and thank you, Bharat, for a great discussion of the effects of AI in the wine industry. You know, AI is clearly revolutionary impact on the wine and beverage industry. You know, we can't dispute it. You know, what we've heard today is from, you know, the enhancing viniculture and soil optimization to all the way down to on the distribution side. AI is impacting the space every single day. And Randal, I really appreciate you coming together here. This is a last minute podcast, and you know, this is our first for us that someone actually took it in a car out in a field doing work. So, you know, I think this is a new step for two guys talking AI, and you know, definitely I'm going to get on the horn with you, and let's set up some time in next week to meet up.
Cheers.
Thanks,
so
Randal.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,